Hey, 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 Fit Mama. Jen Oliver here, your host of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout. Hey, Fit Mama, and welcome. Today I have a treat for you. If I might even dare say a real treat, which is the title of one of her books. Today on the podcast, I am bringing you Marni Wasserman, my very second appearance guest. I've never had anyone on the Fit Mama podcast twice. And if you heard her the first time, prior to her home birth, her intended home birth plan, and I had to have her on to hear about how the intended home birth went, because we all know that our intentions and then the outcomes don't always necessarily match up, in particular when it comes to birthing our babies. We can have a plan, but we don't always know how it's going to go at the end of the day. And Marni, oh gosh, I mean, you'll hear it today, you'll hear it, I'm sure in the future again, you'll hear it on her podcast over and over, how inspiring she is. She is really one of a kind. I am so grateful to call her a very, very, very good friend of mine, in addition to the fact that she is a very inspiring online personality. She has been at this health thing for quite some time, and she's more inspired than ever to share her passion for healthy eating and living. As a new mom, she is trying out some new recipes. She's doing a whole bunch of new cool stuff with her new baby, Sorrel, who, if you go onto Marni's Instagram, you will flip out because her baby is so darn cute. There's really just nothing more to say about it. She navigated through her natural pregnancy and childbirth. She is sharing her experiences not only today, not only on her Ultimate Health podcast, but also I'm going to be announcing later today something new and exciting that she is doing. So I will make you wait, and I will not waste another moment before we dive in to this interview with none other than the beautiful, the brilliant, my friend, Marni Wasserman. Hello and welcome back. Our first repeat guest, Marni Wasserman. Welcome to the Fit Mama podcast.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, what a treat. I am so excited to follow up. I think right after we recorded the last podcast with you, I was already excited to follow up in my impatient way. I wanted to hear how it all was going to unfold. And a few months later, you did indeed have your baby girl, Sorrel, and I can't wait to hear about all the things leading up to giving birth. So please take us back to, I guess, kind of the beginning of your third trimester as you're heading into the end, the kind of finale. What were you feeling, thinking, and all that going in? Take us back to that time, Marn.
Yeah, so pregnancy was amazing. And as I went into the third trimester, I'm still feeling great. I'm growing. Baby's getting bigger. I'm feeling tired. I'm having trouble breathing. Those are some of the symptoms I was feeling. But I was also just anticipating the arrival of this little being, because I didn't know at the time that it was going to be a girl. So as we progressed through, I think January, it was January, that I was feeling really good. And towards the end of the month is when we started to actually start preparing, making sure we had everything ready for the home birth, making sure that all the appointments with the midwives, they were giving me everything I needed to know to, make sure that I was ready for when baby was coming. And my mom came down towards the end of the month, which was amazing. She was coming here to be with us, to be part of the whole birth team and be part of the experience for while I was delivering and definitely postpartum.
So fun.
And I'll fast forward just to when I kind of hit 40 weeks full term. So once I hit that milestone, which is great, it's a funny thing, because you want to cross the full term mark, which technically at 37 weeks you are full term. But, I kept reading that I want to get to 40 weeks just so that I knew that the baby was fully developed, lungs, brain, everything. So it just feels really good to get to that milestone. But when you get to that 40-week mark, you kind of start to get anxious a day after that. It's like, okay, now when's baby coming? Because the midwives kind of more or less were saying, if you go 2 weeks past term, that's when, we want to make sure this baby's out. So every day past 40 weeks, it's like, okay, when's this baby coming? So it was really interesting, really interesting turn of events in terms of mindset. So all of a sudden, Jesse and I are like, okay, let's maybe put a couple things in place in terms of natural inductions, things that we can do that aren't going to harm me, aren't going to harm the baby, but would just coax my body to tell it that it's ready for baby to arrive. And that included things like I was continuing to see my reflexologist. So that was something I think I shared on the first episode with you about seeing someone who was on my feet the entire process, which was amazing. And then starting at 40 weeks, he did a little bit of a different technique to, again, tell the body that it's ready, not to induce me, but just to coax the body. Yeah. I was doing some essential oils that I was learning about at the time that were helpful for letting the body know. I was doing some homeopathics that I just started learning about, because I know about homeopathics, but not specifics. And definitely I didn't know them related to baby. So I had luckily between my doula and some friends, they were like, oh, you should try this and that would, help your body. And the one thing that was new to the routine as well was seeing a acupuncturist. So yeah, there's a prenatal acupuncturist in the city that I live in who is highly recommended. So I figured I'll go start seeing her. And that was maybe 3 or 4 days past my due date, that I started seeing her. Helping to tell the body as well that let's get the meridians going and let's start things.
And how did that feel those few days doing those different things? Did you feel a sense of urgency, or was it kind of like, okay, they're giving me this sense of urgency, but I'm just going to do these things? Were you feeling calm, or were you feeling a little anxious?
I wasn't too anxious, and I was pretty calm overall. The only thing that I was kind of curious about was that my belly was so high. I think I was waiting for this baby to drop for so long, and people kept telling me, when the baby drops, you'll be closer. And when I was like 3 or 4 days post delivery date or post due date, and baby was still so high up in my lungs, I was like, it's not dropping. This is, I don't know. So I started questioning that. I think that was really my only sign telling me that maybe we're not close to this yet.
And did she ever drop? Yeah. Did she actually? Because some people find they never get to that point even.
Nope. She never dropped. She never dropped. Yeah. So it was really interesting. Yeah. But overall, I was totally feeling good. There was a couple of days where I had some cramping that I was like, oh, could this be it? Of course, every day you're questioning everything. Yeah. But nothing happened until 6 days after. So I can get into that if you want.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I do want to stop you for one question before we get into the birth. And I want to just ask you, what were some of the highlights or kind of most important things that you found you needed in your home birth kind of prep plan in terms of the items? I know that you kind of packed a hospital bag in case you needed one. What were those few things that you kind of threw in there to need?
Oh, right. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of, definitely did a whole video on this, so I almost want to reference it. I know.
Right now. Well, you know what? We'll link to that. If you can remember anything. I mean, you got a newborn, so we're not going to make you remember things that you already did, but I know that's such good information from you, so I'm going to link that up. How about that?
For sure. I know I can go through a couple things because I do have visual memory, so I know, and I know what was in there. So I had comfortable clothing. Yes. So I made sure that I had something to wear after baby was delivered, and then something that I maybe wanted to wear while baby was being delivered. So I had a really comfortable sports bra and a really, kind of cute nightgown type thing. It's so funny because I don't really wear nightgowns, but I knew that would be super easy access for anyone and baby to come out. I had snacks. I had my homeopathic remedies. I had essential oils on hand. I had slippers. So these are all things that were in my go bag in case I need to go to the hospital, but also to go down to the basement where I didn't have to worry about anything or ask anyone to get anything. It was all right there, ready to go. So those are some comfort measures for me. But then there's things for the actual birth that you need. Things like lots of towels, a comfortable bed, hopefully, or somewhere that you can go on to deliver if you need to. You can also do it on the floor if that should work out for you. We had a birthing ball. Luckily, my basement was set up with other provisions, things like I had a step stool. I have a pole in my basement, things that I was able to grab onto. So sometimes people can purchase these things if you are having a home birth and you can have them available to you. We also were planning for a water birth as well. So we had a big tub set up. And with that comes things like a strainer in case you poop in the water.
Okay. Details, right? Wow.
We had so many things. A heating pad for the baby's clothes to warm up well, closer too, so that, when the baby's putting on its first outfit, it's nice and warm.
Oh, that's so cute.
A diaper ready to go, a little hat ready for the baby. Oh. Yeah, so those are some of the things, and definitely the video will highlight more details.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I love that you kind of delineated between the comfort measures for you and then the things that you needed. And I'm sure the midwives did, help you with all the details around getting those things set up or telling you things that you might need. But I'm so glad that you had so many of those ideas and foresight around the comfort measures, because that's such a vital piece. And, I love when, someone like yourself highlights those things that you do for yourself and those kind of like self treats, if you will, right? Those things that are going to make you feel comfortable, you're going to feel relaxed, and you're treating yourself. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I feel like I love that we're talking about it, because I feel like too many people think just in the practical, what do we need? What do we have to have? But not in the what would I love to have?
Right. And that became essential for me, in the case that I had to go to the hospital, which we'll get into. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you are, filling up the cup that you need so that you feel at home, at peace, and feeling, not alone. And yeah, it's so important. Having that bag ready for whatever it is, again, whether you're changing floors in your house or going outside of your home to a birthing center, is so critical.
So critical. That's such a great point. Yes, I love that. Thank you for highlighting those things. Okay, let's go into that moment when you might have thought you had to go into the hospital. Tell us about that.
Yeah, such an interesting story. So as the days were progressing, we hit day 6, and there was a lot of people telling me that this baby was going to be born on the full moon, because that seems to be, the old wives' tale.
Totally.
And there is some truth to that. There actually is, which I didn't really learn too much about until after the fact. So on February 9th, during that day, we, went about our business, had a beautiful day. We actually went to the States, went to Whole Foods, and I did feel a little bit of cramping, but nothing alarming. And that night when we went to bed, the funniest thing was Jesse and I were listening to this podcast all about an astronaut who had done some stuff underwater. So I went to sleep with water on the brain.
Oh my God.
So here I am, just, drift off into the sleep and, talking about water. And then I wake up at 1:30 in the morning, and there's a little bit of water beneath me. Not a lot, but enough to be concerning or alerting to me that something is happening, but not enough to be like, oh, my water's broken. So I was a little bit confused. So I waited until the morning, asked my mom, because she was living with us at the time, and Jesse, and we're like, okay, let's just call the midwives and see what they say. Right away, they said, come on in, let's check this out, see what's going on. They did an internal and wanted to see what was happening, if there's any pooling of water, and just to see, any mucus or anything. And they checked things out, and it became apparent that I was having a hind water leak, which is different than your full water's breaking. This means that there's a little pinhole leak up above my uterus, which is not uncommon, but not as common. Right. And it's just something that we need to look into, meaning if things don't progress and the rest of my waters don't flow out within the next 24 to 48 hours, we need to get you to the hospital because we need to start contractions. So it was a little overwhelming to get that information. Here I am, all excited. The process is beginning. I'm feeling really confident, this baby's coming. And then a little bit of a, hit in the back saying, okay, basically you have the rest of today to decide what you want to do, because tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we need to admit you to the hospital, or tonight. If you're ready to go, we'll take you there tonight. So our appointment with the midwives on that Sunday morning was early enough that I had, luckily, and for me, it was any hour, every hour was sacred. Yeah. So I was like, okay, we're going to go figure this out. We're going to do whatever we can do. I called our doula. I said, I shared everything with her. I was bawling my eyes out on the phone and just, what do we do? So supportive, came over and just, was there to debrief and go through everything. And we talked about what can we do today to maximize our chances. So everything, all the natural injections that I was already doing the week prior, we upped all of those. So the homeopathics, the essential oils, like literally every hour on the hour, I was like dousing myself, smelling clary sage and taking, oh my gosh, like blue cohosh or black cohosh and doing all these things. And then she was doing acupressure points on my feet. And I tried a breast pump, which actually didn't even work because the midwives had given it to me. It was like this old breast pump, and I was all frustrated with it. And that's a whole other story. I was like so anti-breast pumps. And I was bouncing on the ball. I was walking around the house and just trying to deep breathe. And unfortunately, the one thing I couldn't do that day that I would have wanted to do was go see my acupuncturist. It was a Sunday and it was closed. So I had to just, trust that everything I was doing was good enough. But of course, as the hours kept creeping by, and I know I have to call the midwives back to let them know what I've decided. Are we going to go to the hospital tonight or tomorrow? It was so hard for me to wrap my head around it. And as you can imagine, having heard, my story before and how natural I wanted to approach this, it was just a really hard pill to swallow. But I do have to say the fact that I did have the day to digest that information is better than being told, come on, Marni, we got to go to the hospital right now, where you don't even have a split second. Yeah. So luckily, during the time that we were home and I was doing all these natural inductions, in the background, Jessie and my mom are getting together a couple of bags beyond just my go bag, which I just shared about. We're getting other boxes together with a salt lamp, a comforter, other things that I didn't even think I would need. And because now the reality of the hospital was becoming truer, and I had them actually walk me through everything. They, like the midwives, like held my hand. They're like, so here's what would happen. You get to the hospital, you go to this room, I needed to hear that. I need to hear it. I didn't want to be in any unknowns because I've never been admitted to a hospital before. Wow. I'm very, very grateful that has never been my experience, and I didn't want this to be my first one. So at least I could mentally prepare for it if that was the way it was going to work out. So the whole day it was just unraveling, and it came to the time, it was like 6 o'clock. I hadn't even called the midwives yet. I was trying to, postpone it, avoid it. They called me and said, okay, so what if you did? I'm like, you know what, guys, I really don't know. I'm really feeling anxious about this. And they said, you know what, we're coming over. I'm so lucky to have these two amazing women who on a Sunday night, they've already spent so much time with me. They're like, we're coming over, both of us, to talk to you and feel this out and go over what this might look like or what to do. So they came over at 6:30 or 7. We had a conversation. We went through the scenario again, and they're like, okay, good news. You can't actually go to the hospital tonight. They're full. So it would be tomorrow morning. So basically that gave me another, 12 hours to absorb this and figure out what I could do. And the last thing that we were thinking about, or that I was considering, was taking castor oil. And they were really unsure as to whether that was a good idea or not, but they left it in my hands. They said, you know what, you've tried so much today. If you want to try it, go for it. But, know that there's some side effects. You're going to have diarrhea. You're going to feel uncomfortable, but it's all up to you. And I was hemming and hawing, and finally by 9 o'clock, I chugged back about a quarter cup of castor oil. And by 1 a.m., I had contractions starting. Wow. So it was...
that's a quick turnaround.
It was a really quick turnaround. And what was interesting is that during the day, I think I was mentally convincing myself that I was having contractions. I was trying to explain to them when they came over. I'm like, yeah, I had these cramps. And Ginger, the midwife, she was like, you would know if they were contractions. I'm like, okay, well, maybe they weren't. And then at 1:30, when I had my first contraction and I'm lying in bed, I'm like, Jess, my back really hurts. This is weird. And then like every few minutes, it would be like this spasm. And then it crept from my back to my front. And I was like, okay, this is it. And then we started timing them. We called the midwives at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they said, keep checking on it. And then by 7 a.m. in the morning, it was very apparent that I was going into labor. And they said, we can do this at home. And I was just like, so happy.
That must have just been, the best news to hear after almost 24 hours of being unsure if you were going to have to be. I didn't even realize you had never been to a hospital. You're so cute. No wonder. Wow.
Yeah, for myself, for my own.
Right, of course.
Never had to be admitted to the hospital. So it was very, very hard to accept that could have been the way, but I would have dealt with it. I would have gone through with it if I had to.
Definitely. And I think that's such an important piece. I mean, we talked on the last episode, and for anyone who hasn't heard that yet, Marni was really, really set on a home birth and had everything in place for it, mentally, physically prepared for it in all ways that she could, and her husband, Jesse. And it's amazing because there's just, no matter how much you prepare, there's unknown factors, right? I mean, who would have thought you would have been chugging up some castor oil at midnight to get things going? I mean, that you almost couldn't have predicted, right?
Right. And I do have to add in, for people who are listening, do not take that advice if you are in that window right now thinking, oh, I'll just take some castor oil. Please talk to your practitioner. I just have to put that out there because it is aggressive and there are some potential dangerous side effects. It can cause the baby to poop. Like, there are things you want to look into before you do it.
Definitely.
At this point in my story, I was just, to me, the cost of the way out, for me, I would have regretted not doing it. So I went ahead and did it. And I'm grateful that I did, but I just have to put that in. Please do your own research and don't go take castor oil right now.
Thank you. That is a great advice and a good disclaimer. You know what I really want to kind of highlight is this the moment, or sort of, I guess, let's call it the 24-hour moment that you had to sort of make some really tough decisions and take action to progress things along. In those moments, there was a lot of, I'm sure, doubt, and not only doubt in the hospital or what was going to happen when you went there, but also just doubt in yourself, because I know you went in confidently. I know you have a confidence about yourself and a connection with your body that is really strong. But in those moments, I want to hear about this kind of almost, I don't know if I want to really call it fear, but sort of like this power struggle where we can give our power away and then we can bring it back. It's kind of like this little dance we do, and it's kind of subconscious. We don't know we're doing it. It's like the doctor or midwife tells me this, then I this and behave this way. And we kind of have this little dance go back and forth. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, I want to really feel where you were at, because you had a level of trust with yourself that I feel is rare. And I feel is something that if we can tap into and understand a little bit, we can really allow more people to try it, to do it, to experience it, because you truly are a role model in that way, Marni.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was tough from, that first utter of the word of we might need to go to the hospital if things don't progress. That was a huge piece of information to take on. And as I said, like I was a mess initially. I was like, oh my goodness, like everything has just gone out the window. Like I kind of went into all this, shame and guilt and sadness and, like, wow, like everything up to this point has been so good and everything is set up at home. And one thing I remember doing, this just came to me as I'm saying this right now. So when we came home that day after the appointment and I was home just like absorbing all this, I went down to the basement and I got into the empty birth tub and I got in there and I said, I want to deliver in here. Like, I want to be home. Like I looked at all of our supplies that we had ready. I took it all in and I tried to take it all in loosely, knowing that there was a chance I wasn't going to be here. So my higher self or my right mind was looking all this stuff, knowing, okay, Marni, you're a big girl. You can do this if you're not at home. But then my little girl, my little needy girl was like, but I want this. And this is what I've planned for. And this is what, I'm so ready for. So I just remember visualizing and just being down there and just being like, this is the space. And then I, got out of there, got upstairs, like, let it go. Just put it behind me. I'm like, okay, whatever happens. So it was such a hard day for me. And then I got to a point of kind of despair, not really knowing what to do, which is why I hadn't called the midwives back all day. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Like, I just feel completely indecisive. There's no, I can't say, let's just go to the hospital and,
No.
start the Pitocin process. Even though I cared so much about the health of my baby, I knew there was still something else that could be done, or I knew that we still had time, and I wanted to ride out that wave as long as I could and take advantage of every minute of the day. So there's a lot of going back and forth, but I think overall just holding on to that vision that this was going to happen somehow. I didn't know how at the time because I really did feel at a loss, but obviously some subconscious part of me knew that we were going to make it through. I don't know if that answers the question.
It totally answers it. It actually blows my mind how much it answers it, because you know what I think is such a huge piece that we really don't talk about enough is having that vision for yourself, right? And trusting that vision can come to life. And so often we have a vision for ourselves, and this starts from, being a little girl and saying, I want to do this and I want to do this. And people come in and saying, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's never going to happen for you. And I mean, I can only imagine, and I'd love to hear, I mean, you live, let's call it a public life, and you shared a lot of your, definitely pregnancy, but a lot of your desires around having a home birth. And I'm sure there were a number of people who were kind of like, oh yeah, she thinks it's going to go that way. Oh yeah, great plans, but and people kind of want to bring you down in a way. So how did you notice, did you feel extra pressure from being so public about your story?
I think so. I think it was definitely in the background there, because even when we spoke to different people on the podcast who had planned for a natural pregnancy, and then they're like, okay, you just have to surrender because things don't always go as planned. Like that's always what people say, plan, but let go of that plan.
Yeah.
And I kind of kept that in a little compartment in my brain as, okay, that's there.
Yeah.
10% of my brain that will take up that space, but 90% is like, no, I'm putting in all the work that I can, and I'm going to push through with this. But I was, smart enough to know that if things didn't go as planned, that we would roll with it.
Yeah.
But we also had a little bit of at 32 weeks, there was a little bit of a, not scare, but a little bit of a conversation around your baby being breech, which she was at the time. And that conversation was, if your baby doesn't flip by 39, 40 weeks, we are going to have to plan for hospital birth. So at one point early in the pregnancy, I also had to prepare for that mentally as well for a short period of time. Luckily, by 35 weeks, she had flipped down to head down, which was very relieving because I was really anxious about that as well. But so yeah, it's almost like that covered one layer and level for me to mentally prepare. And then I had, when things were approaching, being told that we were going to go to the hospital, it was like, okay, I got this. We can do this. I've overcome already one obstacle. I can overcome another one, and we're going to figure this out.
Hey there, Fit Mama. I am interrupting this episode with Marni and I to tell you a little bit about Marni's new podcast, which I want you to go over. Click that link in the show notes right now. Head over to the Ultimate Baby Podcast. I mean, come on. If you're in this phase where you are pregnant, birthing, having babies, you're a mom, or you have any interest in health and well-being, which I know you do being here, Marni has created the Ultimate Baby Podcast, and her motherhood journey has really just begun over the last year. She was pregnant. She went through a natural pregnancy. She, as you will hear today, the details of and have heard, she had an incredible home birth experience. She is continuing to learn so much along the way, and she is very excited to share this information. She already has an incredible ability to communicate. She is used to interviewing guests at every level, asking the good questions. She is an investigative researcher, if you will, and her approach is natural and holistic. So she's covering a whole lot of topics from optimizing fertility, diet, supplements during pregnancy. She talks about alternative interventions. She talks about the benefits and the challenges of breastfeeding, building a birth team, and so much more. And that's just the beginning of her podcast. So let me tell you, there is going to be some incredible information sharing going on at the Ultimate Baby Podcast. So please head over there, click the link in the show notes, check out Marni's new pod, and I'm telling you, you will love it. Share it with your friends and stay connected with Marni if you want to continue feeling fantastic in your life. as a singleton or as a mom, it does not matter. Marni is your gal. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Marni, for creating the Ultimate Baby podcast for us, because you know what? That is going to be a resource, if I will say, centuries to come, if not more. So thank you. And Fit Mama, head over to the Ultimate Baby podcast and check out Marni and her incredible wealth of knowledge and wisdom that she is imparting on us. Back to the podcast.
Yes. And then having that confidence, right? I love that. You know, it's so true. And I remember vividly texting you around that time when you thought the baby was breech. And, you know, in my mind, I remember thinking, oh, there's still lots of time, like there's 2 months away kind of thing. And I remember how practical you were, right? Like you were kind of like, yeah, so I'm doing this and I'm looking into this and I'm talking to this person. And I really don't remember, you know, panic stricken. I just remember practical and sort of systematic in, okay, what can I do about it? Right. And I think there's I've talked about this on another podcast, this difference between pain and suffering, right? Pain is this uncomfortable physical sensation, whereas suffering is sort of that helplessness. And we can easily go into this place of helplessness if we don't have that feeling of empowerment, like, yeah, I can do something about this. And whether that's a reality or not, it's sort of just knowing that and having that vision for yourself that if I want this to make this happen, I have to start doing something to that effect. Yeah. Yeah. What a role model. And I love that vision in your mind. And even just so far as you went to go and sit in the tub, I think that is so powerful. And, you know, everything we ever do begins with a thought, begins with an idea, begins with something that we are sparked by, and then we decide or somehow, you know, follow through on the action. And I think you really just did such a great job. And I think, I'm so grateful not only to be your friend, but to have you as a role model. And this actually takes me right into exciting news that I want to share with the Fit Mamas, is that you have a new podcast. Marni, tell us a little bit about your new podcast.
Yeah, the Ultimate Baby podcast, a spin-off of the Ultimate podcast. So this has been brewing in me for a long time. You know, in the early days, I think, of being pregnant, I was like, there's got to be a podcast out there that covers all things natural and all the things that I'm looking for. And this came up because I couldn't find what I was looking for. There's a lot of amazing mommy and pregnancy podcasts out there, but not one that had everything in one place that I was looking for. Like, we had to kind of pick and choose between different hosts and different ones and kind of put together a little list of the episodes we want to listen to. And I was starting to collect so much information myself. I'm like, I got to get this out to the world. I love educating. I love learning. And I love everything pregnancy, baby, all this. This is like my whole new world. I've been in the nutrition and health world for so many years, and that is who I am at the core. Luckily, that bleeds into everything else. But now that I'm entering this new phase of becoming a mom, I just knew that this was going to be my next leg of inspiration and education to the world.
Oh,
so
it's such a great
podcast. It just started to make sense. You know, the podcast is the medium I know. Luckily, we've got the infrastructure. I've got my husband, Jesse, who's amazing and knows everything ins and outs of podcasting. I've got a team that can help, and I just love to talk. So if I can have people to help me actually get it out there, that's great. So it was just a matter of when, and I was going to do it. Probably, I don't know, you know, we tell ourselves all these stories. It's like, no, I'm going to, you know, I'll need a year after the baby's born, or I'm going to, you know, I'll do it in the fall when things kind of kick back up again. And I just kind of kept pushing it back. And to be honest, I didn't think I was going to do anything in the first couple of months, which you shouldn't. You need to rest, you need to restore, you need to repair, which I know you've been a huge inspiration to me to make sure I took that time. But you do get to a point, I think, as, you know, as a woman who just needs to create and do and just wanting to, you know, put your hands into something. And as the conversation started getting more intense with my partner, Jeff, talking about it, I'm like, I'm going to get this going. I'm going to do it around Mother's Day. It's going to be perfect. Let's just get it out to the world. And the nice thing is that I don't have to commit to the intense schedule that we have at the Ultimate Health Podcast, which is like a weekly episode, sometimes 2 a week, I can just do this whenever it feels right. And I do plan in time to pick it up more progressively as I have more time. Right now, it's hard to have a lot of time. I got my little girl who I love to pieces attached to me 24/7. So I have to, plan accordingly. But that's the beauty of it. And that's why it can appeal to moms, because moms hopefully will get it. And so the first episode is out there, the intro, and the next one's coming out next week. And then I'm going to keep plugging away. I've got so much to share, and then so many guests I want to bring on as well, such as yourself, to bring the conversation in different areas to help moms along their journey.
So valuable and so generous and so exciting. And I just love that. I love that you got it out for Mother's Day. I love that you kind of even surprised yourself. And, I think it's such an exciting sort of reveal, because you just never know how things are going to roll out. And you're just such a role model for that right now. It's just like kind of letting things happen. And I think a huge part of that, which sort of, we've mentioned him a few times and I love him to pieces. I mean, your partner on the Ultimate Health Podcast, and now daddy in charge. Like, how cute. I've known Jesse now for a few years, and I've known him from the podcast for a long time. And just to see him in this role as dad, and when you guys shared your birth story episodes on the Ultimate Health Podcast, oh my gosh, like, to hear him beaming, I could hear his smile from a million miles away. It was just so cute. And I remember just going, oh my gosh, it's so adorable, you two navigating this together. And he is just such a great supporter for you. Now, you're such an independent woman. How do you balance that, doing independent, being you, and then also leaning on him, leaning on someone, right? Like, you have that, your mom there for you, and you're able to lean on people, which I personally have always kind of had a bit of a hard time with. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting because I am very independent, and I just remember before I ever got into my first serious relationship, because I was also married previously, so I was in a serious relationship for a number of years before I even met Jesse. And I remember before that, pre-relationship Marni, because I was single for a lot of my life. I wasn't that girl who always had boyfriends or always had a relationship going on. But I remember thinking to myself, it's going to be interesting one day. I was sleeping in a bed with someone every night, and someone's in my space all the time, and it's gonna be, it's gonna be interesting. And then you just roll with it. Like, when you find the person who's supposed to be in your life, it just becomes so easy, and it's just so natural, because that's what a lot of people are used to doing. Not everybody, but a lot of people are used to cohabitating with another human being. So in our days before parents, I've made sure that I always had a chance in there for me to be independent and do my thing, whether it was a morning routine or spending time with myself during the day, or getting out into the world, doing, seeing friends or going to appointments, and then making sure that we have our relationship in check, and that there are things that Jesse contributes that I can't contribute to the relationship and to me. And it's so nice knowing those aspects of each other, of how we can each contribute to the relationship and what we can each provide, and finding where we do need to lean on each other for the things, and kind of put our hands up and say, no, you do it. This is what you're good at. Or you contribute this, or you take care of this. And it's been an amazing journey to learn that. And now as we're into the parenthood role, it's a whole other bag of tricks, knowing that I am the primary with the baby, consider that I'm feeding her all the time, and this is who she's gravitating to. It's just kind of the phase we're in right now. But that means Jesse can pick up and do other things that I can't do right now, taking care of the lawn, taking care of the house, and making sure all the little things are in place. And it's just really important to find that balancing act with your partner, and finding where you can wholeheartedly rely on your partner in a healthy way.
Yeah, really surrendering to that. It's so nice. It's so great to see. Now, has anything been kind of surprising, unexpected in your new mom life, in your new parent life with you and Jesse? I mean, you guys had practice kind of, let's say parenting Goji, your dog, and you guys have practiced working together with the podcast. So you're used to that kind of communication. Has it been different with a baby than the other things?
Not so much. Are there little things? Yes. But luckily, because we both work and are at home all the time, and that's a lifestyle that we've been used to for so long. It wasn't like suddenly shocked that, oh, Jesse's home because he's taking time off work, and what's it going to be like with him around all the time? It's like, this is our life. We're just so used to being home together, which was very lucky in our case, just to have that. And especially in the early days, Jesse's here all the time. We had my mom here. It was just so supportive and so helpful. And as we progressed, are there little things that come up? Sure. But overall, I'd say we've really, figured out a groove and given each other space in the right areas, but at the same time doing whatever we can to be the best parents to our little girl. It's healthy overall.
Yeah, so great. And it's been definitely so fun to watch you, and I'm so grateful that you do share such great information and really helpful stuff. Like I said, I'll link up to that one video of your birthing bag and kind of the essentials, but I'm going to link up to Marni's Instagram on the show notes as well, and definitely go follow her because she's always sharing incredible stuff, and her IGTV is packed with amazing info that if you're pregnant or you're thinking about getting pregnant or you've had a baby, this is such valuable info. And I know that you'll find so much if you go there to her Instagram and to her website, which we'll also link up. Is there anything else that you really want to kind of highlight today? Any advice you have for someone either thinking about getting pregnant, going into their birth experience? What's something that you really want to share, Marni?
I think it's really important to prepare as much as you can. There's that balance between preparing and trusting your intuition, which is, I think we talked about this in the first episode too. It's kind of, you got to go between the two. It's good to know, what's coming up, things you want to learn about during the pregnancy, what's happening at each phase along the way, learning about what the postpartum period is going to be all about, which again is a whole other conversation because there's so much emphasis usually on pregnancy and sometimes on baby, but not enough on the actual mom recovering. So I highly recommend you get books and resources or listen to podcasts that can help you in these specific areas, and then balancing that with trusting your intuition, which now as a new mom, I have to admit that has been a challenge at times because there is information coming at me. There's things that I didn't even learn about at all that are like, whoa, I had no idea about this. And now I have to learn it in a split second and figure it out, or try and go inwards and see what is my body telling me. But it's a really hard balance between the head and the heart, especially when you have this other being. It's not just yourself now. You have this other little being that you want to do everything perfectly for. So that kind of answers something you asked a question ago, just saying anything that's come up that I didn't expect. And that's been really interesting for me to find the balance of, because constantly, between her sleeping, breastfeeding, teething now, like all these things that are coming up now, it's like, okay, what do I do? I don't know. Like, do I try this? Do I try that? So it's just, I really give you the knowledge to try or the wise words to plan and prepare as much as you can, but also trust that intuition and know that mama knows best, and you're going to do the best you can, and you're going to rock it.
Yeah, so true. And this actually brings me to one more question that I do have, which was around your personal recovery. I mean, you're just kind of on the other side now of your 4th trimester. Sorrel is how many weeks now?
15 weeks.
15 weeks. What a muffin. Oh my God, so cute. So do you feel physically recovered, mentally, emotionally? I mean, regardless necessarily of how Sorrel's sleeping, which I know she's like a little dreamer, but how are you feeling? Do you feel like you're kind of past postpartum, or do you still feel like you're in it?
I do feel like I'm past it, which is, really a good thing to say. Like, I feel good in my body. Sometimes I look down at my body, I'm like, was I ever pregnant? Like, it's so foreign now being pregnant. I feel back in my body. Like, I got very lucky I took care of myself during my pregnancy, stayed fit, stayed healthy, took care of my skin. So when Sorrel was born, my body was back to normal. And I know this doesn't happen for everybody. So that was something that I didn't have to, in the early days, I have to say my stomach felt really weird. I remember talking to you, Jen. I'm like, it feels like really squishy and I don't know where my abs are.
They don't know where they are either.
Sorry?
I said they don't know where they are either. They're just trying to find their home again.
And they're still don't have abs back, but I can feel a little bit of muscle tone underneath there. It's like, okay, my body's there. And so that takes a while, the physical part, and I took my time. And again, thank you so much, Jen, for helping me with that and helping me every single week strengthen my pelvic floor and, making sure that I was doing okay and checking in. That was so helpful as part of my journey.
Yay,
so it's a physical component, which is really hard. And then mentally and emotionally, I feel like I did pretty well overall because I had such good support. And I had a team around me, and I had, between my midwives, my doula, my mom, Jessie, and I had some friends in the early days, and then Corona came and I couldn't see anybody.
All the friends are gone.
Really have so much support. And then I think just prior to the 12 weeks, the quote unquote end of, the postpartum period, I was feeling good. And now that I'm 15 weeks, I'm feeling really good. Now, can I go for a run right now? No. Can I, do high intensity activity? No. But can I go for walks? Can I lift a little bit of light weights and kind of do the things I need to do right now just to be around and be a healthy mama? Yes. And emotionally feeling good, and overall just feeling like I can, just transition into this new phase of a growing little baby and into my life. So I'm feeling
beautiful. I love it. It's so refreshing, and it's really just so beautiful to see. Thank you again for sharing all that you do share online, because I think it gives, all of us an opportunity to not only learn from you, which, you have so much wisdom, and for anyone who's, wanting any information around nutrition and lifestyle, definitely go check out Marni's page. She'll give you all the deets. But the thing that I find to be particularly refreshing is that you seek answers and you ask questions. And I think it's just so common for us to sort of just be told things by those around us, especially in an area we think we don't know much about. It's like, oh, I've never been pregnant before. Oh, I've never given birth before. Okay, professionals tell me what to do. And I think that really, gives the power away. And I feel like I really witnessed you not doing that over and over. And I think that's something that really stood out to me. I personally, from watching your journey, got to almost sort of relive my own pregnancies and postpartum time periods, and not in a way where it was a comparison or, oh, I wish I would have done this, or, naturally we say, oh, I wish I would have known that then, or whatever. But it's almost just in a way where we can just repeat it with positive memories. And I just look at little baby Sorrel and I'm like, oh, I remember when mine were so little. And it's such a nice, beautiful experience. And you share it in such a positive, uplifting, and really supportive way. And I just want to thank you for that, because it's so valuable to so many people, Marni.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And something you just said about, asking the professionals and, giving your power away. That's why it's so important, even, with the goal of my podcast too, is to give the information and then let people make their own decisions. Like having that informed consent and having that baseline to make your own choices is going to really help you on your journey, whether it's a natural pregnancy, which is, my goal to share with people, or whether it's a conventional pregnancy and you're choosing right from the get-go to go to the hospital and take, all the things you need to take along the way and get all the interventions you need to get. If that's your choice, that's great. But make informed decisions. Know what you're getting into, and don't just do it just because that's supposed to happen. Do it because that feels right to you, and that's the way you want to go through your pregnancy or raise your baby or whatever it is. So,
yes, well said. Yeah, well said. And I think that's exactly the key, is just having the information. And you've done that so well with the Ultimate Health podcast, and now coming through with the Ultimate Baby podcast. And it's just going to be an opportunity for all of us to learn more, and then, yes, making those informed decisions, which really is so key, especially when it comes to babies. So that's great. This has been so awesome, Marni. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably, so candidly, all the details. Like I said, her whole birth story with her and Jessie is on the Ultimate Health podcast. I will link up to that one as well. And anything you want to leave us with, Marni, before we end this? This is so great. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I know. Thank you so much for for having me on again. And as you said, yeah, if you want to hear the rest of the story, of the birth story, definitely check it out because I tell it in full detail.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a beautiful thing. And our baby girl Sorrel is healthy and happy and
cute
yeah,
as anything.
thanks, Steph.
She's beyond cute. Thank you so much, Marni. Hugs to you and Jessie and Sorrel and Goji. We will talk to you very soon. Thank you. Wow, wow, wow. Talk about inspiring. Talk about so much information that she conveyed. And I'm telling you, Marni is a wealth of information. If you don't yet follow her, head over to the links in the show notes, Fit Mama, because you will find her Instagram, you will find her website, you will find the links to her podcast, not only the ever popular and incredible podcast, the Ultimate Health Podcast, where she co-hosts with her husband, Jesse, but she now has her own second, third even, if you will, after her dog and her baby. And now it is her next baby, her own podcast, which I'm so excited to bring to you. And it's called the Ultimate Baby Podcast. And she's just so cute. Well, she was pregnant, her and Jesse, they called their baby the Ultimate Baby. And it is just so fitting that she now created a podcast. And in this podcast, she is really sharing some good stuff. So head over there, please. Click, subscribe, share with all your friends, and she will be sharing so much about the ultimate baby, her natural pregnancies, childbirth, all the things that you are interested in. So head over there, check out Marni's podcast, and please share this podcast with someone else. Tell someone else how awesome it was. Tell someone else that they are someone that you love and care about and that you wanted them to hear this today. Thank you so much for being here, Fit Mama. It is such an honor to have Marni, to have you listen to us chat about life, baby, birthing, all the things. Have a great day, Fit Mama. Namaste.